What's up, DIY Queens? It's your design bestie, Kara Newhart, and this is Make Space.
Erica, welcome to Make Space.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's so fun because it's like we've talked so much, but never face to face,
I
like in
know.
person.
I know. So weird, right?
So weird, but it's like I already know you because I follow all your content, and that's the fun thing
Yeah.
about social is like you have so many friends that you're like, yeah, I know all about your life, but have never met you in person.
On some of them, when I do meet them, I'm like, oh, this isn't weird. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
right.
you're technically a stranger, but not really. So here we are.
Right, but not really. Like we can just dive right in and skip the small talk. It's
Exactly.
only weird if everyone is like a different height than I expected. Then I'm like,
Mm.
whoa, like I thought you were taller.
Yeah, people always think I'm taller than I am. I'm like a little
Yeah.
small person, so.
Oh, thank you. That's so cute. Okay, well, we have lots to get into, but I think the most interesting thing is that you've lived a whole other life before this and
Yeah.
a totally different career. So I like
Yes.
to start with that because I think it's so fascinating. And then the windy path that led you to being a home creator. So, what
Yeah.
is that?
Okay, well, I don't
What
even
year
know
for
where
you?
to start. Well, have always been interested in an entertainment career.
Yeah.
It led me to sort of dabble in radio in college, and then I moved here to Cleveland, Ohio to be closer to my boyfriend, now husband. And
Yeah.
there was an opportunity that opened up at a radio station, and I went from being basically the girl that just answered the phones to like
Uh-huh.
within 6 months being a full-time on-air talk show host. It was like a
Yeah.
afternoon drive time, but it was like all talk, like talk radio. We talked about
Right.
pop culture, sports, news, everything you could think of. It was me and like three male comedians.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was really
That's
fun
wild.
and funny. And I feel like I really thought that's where I was going in life. Like I literally wanted to be the next
Yeah.
Ryan Seacrest, basically, and I
Okay.
thought I was heading down
Uh-huh.
that path. And like somewhere around 2017, 2018, I developed a chronic illness called POD syndrome. And
Yeah.
basically, I just started fainting all the time, and nobody knew why.
Wow.
And it was like really
Ugh.
freaky for a while. I thought I was dying. It was like
Uh-huh.
very dramatic. But
Yeah.
I just stopped being able to just show up every day. It would be really
Right.
difficult to be on a set schedule. I mean, radio is a fun career, but it's also very corporate. It's also very much a 9 to 5
Right.
or, even later. And I was having to work events on weekends. We were doing bar
Right.
crawls for the radio show and stuff. And so I feel like I just wasn't able to keep up anymore. And
Mm.
so
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was a mutual decision because I really tried to like still maybe work from home.
Yeah.
But the company opted to just let my contract run out, and
Mm.
I had to go on disability for a little while, and it was really scary
Yeah.
because I just couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. It was my passion, it was
Right.
just what I love to do. And then in the
Yeah.
downtime of like trying to feel better, I just started to decorate little corners of my home because that has
Uh-huh.
always been like a hobby. I never really thought of it as a
Right.
potential career.
Right.
I didn't go to school for design, nothing like that. So
Right.
yeah, I think I got like my first 5,000 followers, and I think I said something to my mom and dad like, I might have something here. I think people are
Uh-huh.
liking this. And my parents at that point were just encouraging me and my husband as well to just do anything that would give me some purpose. And it was a
Yeah.
really dark time in my life.
Mm.
And within, I want to say like a year and a half, I was able to get off of disability. And even though I'm technically still considered disabled by the state of Ohio, I just
Uh-huh.
started my own business working for myself. And I think a lot of people don't really understand totally what we do. Like
Right.
I don't do interior design for people. I don't take on clients like that. I
Mm.
essentially make DIYs, share the tutorials online. I redecorate spaces in my home, and then brands basically pay me to promote their product in whatever project I'm working on. So
Right.
that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years or so, and it's really just been such a fun adventure.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many good things to unpack here.
Yeah.
I guess the first thing that came to mind is like you're the perfect podcast guest. Like you're so already trained for radio. Like
I had someone over the other
more
day.
professionally than me. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend over the other day who does this job too, and I recorded the intro for my YouTube video in one take, and she was like,
Yeah.
I would have had to do that 5,000 times. What is up with that? I'm like,
Yep.
I worked in
Yeah.
radio. It's fine."
Right. Like I get it. It's
Yeah.
already, yeah, we're already there.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And I I definitely want to unpack the chronic illness in a minute, but I feel
Yeah.
like we should do the lighter stuff first.
Yeah.
Um, just to give people more a sense of who you are, because I feel like if I was initially gonna find you on social media,
Hmm.
and I did before I really understood like that was your story,
Yeah.
like you were on TikTok, you were so consistent, you were sharing all these like so like fun videos like every single day, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I can't keep up, da, 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 da. And then finding out that level of depth of your story, I was like, wow, like you have so much going on, and the way you're able to balance it all, and not like behind the scenes, like you're so open about your path and your journey
Yeah.
while sorry, I ate protein before and I have like a it's like stuck in my
You got
throat.
that protein
So
ball
gross.
in your throat.
Right, like we should not be doing that.
I've been there.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, and then alongside that, you're here we go.
Yeah, get a good coffin, you know?
Get it out, right? Somebody bring me more water. Okay, I keep back to it. But then your house is like phenomenal, like
Oh, thank
gorgeous,
you.
like elevated DIYs that look like magazines, like, and so just having all of that to offer, first of all, it's like you're amazing. So that's
Oh,
why I invited you here. But
oh, thank
also,
you.
it's just so encouraging because it's like you can have a beautiful space and you can have real life happening to you
Right.
and be able to balance it all. And not that it's always easy, but that it's doable, and the way you're showing people that is just it's so cool. It's so cool. But I want to start by diving into like your style, because I
Sure.
think you have such a beautifully curated style. So how would you like describe your design style?
I will say it's evolved quite a bit. I think my style has evolved because I decided to stop following trends and following
Mm,
certain designer styles and just
yeah.
just hone in on what I love. I mean, I really thought I was Joanna Gaines to start. Man, if you scroll back to my Instagram far enough, it's real scary.
Yeah, same,
I'm like,
same.
why did I think I lived in a farmhouse in Cleveland, Ohio? Like, I definitely didn't.
Right.
Um, but I think over time, what I realized is I just love things that look elevated, that don't
Mm,
cost a fortune, but they huge impact. And also,
yeah.
I think I've been saying for a long time, oh, I'm in my moody era. I'm in my moody era. But I think that's just
Right.
actually who I am.
You.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's an era. I think it's here to stay. Um,
Right.
I really love like playing with contrast, the light and the dark. I just think it sets like moods for your space that just feels
Yeah.
so inviting. And
Yeah.
you know, when you go through chronic health issues as well, I like spaces that are calming as well and feel
Yeah.
cozy for me to sit in for hours at a
Mm,
time. Or if I'm having a rough day and I'm stuck in bed, I want my bedroom to be like light and airy and feel like I'm
yeah.
outside, if even though I can't
Yeah.
be, kind of a thing. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then now I'm in a home where we just moved to a new house, and it's a 90s builder grade, and the ceilings were high, the rooms were long. It just lent itself to me towards more of that Victorian style. And I
Right.
have always adored that style. I just didn't think I could pull
Yeah.
it off in our last home, but this home
Right.
seems like it can carry it. So I'm really leaning into that, and I'm putting a modern flair on it because I want it to feel like,
Right.
oh no, this house exists today. It's just I'm
Right.
borrowing all the best tricks and moldings and things of the past to make it feel
Mm,
like maybe it's always been here at the same time.
yeah. Right. So it's not like a period house where it looks like a relic. It's like,
Yes.
let's take the good stuff, infuse it with the new stuff, and have like a perfect like blend.
And I do love the period houses too. There's a few that I follow on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Oh, yeah.
and I love them and I borrow inspiration from them, but I figure out how to translate it into
Yes.
today's world. Like, what would a Victorian
Right.
woman in today's world, how would she decorate her house? Is kind of what I'm
Right.
going for right now.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, but like along the lines of us starting out thinking we're Joanna Gaines, I think it's important to go here because so many people that tune into the show are like everyday women wanting to take charge of their house.
Hmm.
And the first way that you see to do that is like, here's this person I really love, and I'm
Hmm.
just going to do what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that is honestly, I mean, it's just how you learn, like you emulate and then you kind of branch out after that.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
what are some tips for like evolving your style over time and starting out with like, yeah, I guess just
I always tell people when they come to my page, I'm not here to have you copy every single element of my room. What
Right.
I'm here for is you to borrow what you love, take what you love,
Mm.
leave the rest. Don't feel like you have to say, oh, well, Erica had a beige couch in boucle fabric, so I have to have a beige couch. But if
Mm.
boucle fabric doesn't work for your lifestyle, for your family, for your
Right.
personal taste, leave it. But maybe you love the rug I did, or maybe you love the curtains or the wall color. I've had a lot of people, I'm sure you recall that mauve bedroom that I did. That
Yeah.
sort of
Uh-huh.
it's that color wall color took on a life of its own because people loved it or hated it. But
Mm-hmm.
people have been painting their rooms that color, but then totally doing the design how they like it. And I love that. Like they're
Right.
borrowing from me what they love and they're leaving the rest. And I'm totally fine with that because you're gonna, how many thousands of followers do we have? Someone's gonna find something in each room that we do that's for them,
Yes.
you know? So I
Yes.
think that's my number one
Yes.
tip is just borrow what you love. Take a design concept or maybe one element from a room that you really love that you are like so passionate about, put that into your space and then leave the other stuff from your favorite creator. It doesn't have to be the exact
Right.
same.
Right. That's what I always say is like don't copy and paste.
Yeah.
And it's honestly eerie. Like there's a few people that have like redone my entire bathroom exactly. And I'm like I'm so honored that they like love that much. But it's also like just weird to see.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I'm like, oh, like did you if you did that by really being like, I love every single thing
Right,
and
right,
each of these serves the function of my life and each of these are my style, then like yes, you can copy and paste. But like
right.
I want that intentionality of like curating your own space and then pulling in those elements that like work with you, you
Yeah.
know?
Because you
So
know
I
what?
think
My
that's a really good tip.
lifestyle, we're dinks, dual income, no kids.
Yeah.
So like
Uh-huh.
we have cats, but like they're really not messing anything up for the most part.
Right.
So it's like, obviously, what I'm going to put in my house is not going to be the same as someone who has four children, three
Yes.
of them boys, and they're running around like
Yeah.
crazy with mud
Uh-huh.
and eat dirt and all that. Like, of course, nobody's going to have white walls in a house with toddlers. You know what I mean?
Right,
Or maybe
right,
they
right.
will and they just don't mind touching up the paint every once in a while. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just really needs to suit your lifestyle. So that's what I always point people to is like, I love that you love my style, but make sure it works for your home. And whatever
Right.
pieces do work for your home, great. I mean, a lot of people
Right.
can put a built-in in their house, and with kids and whatever, I'm sure it would be totally fine. Put the fragile stuff up high, and
Up
you're good to
high.
go.
Yep.
So just
Right.
borrow what works for you.
Right. And make those adjustments so that it fits your life. I love that.
Totally.
Um, so how do you like navigate trends when you see a new trend? Like what is kind of your approach to being like, this is for me or this isn't for me? Do you have like a
Well,
go-to
I
plan?
think it's just about how does it work for what I'm doing.
Mm.
I always put it under the lens of is this my style? Big, bold, marble countertops have been like all the rage right now. That viola marble has been trending in
Uh-huh.
kitchens. I'm not gonna
Yes.
put that in an entire kitchen because for me that's a lot of look.
Right. Yep.
However, I built a coffee table out of it. So it's like I'm
Mm.
borrowing a little smidgen of the trend, I'm incorporating it, but I'm not making a permanent decision in my house using a trend.
Yes.
But some trends I do think can be classics. One instance I would say is like the Harlequin tile floors. That's been
Mm.
around for centuries. I don't think it's
Right.
having its moment again, that pattern.
Right. Right.
I did that tile in my foyer, but I know it's going to stand the
Mm-hmm.
test of time. You can't
Right.
marble and limestone, they're not going to go out of style. So
Right.
I try to look at the trends and see if there are ones that I think will stand the test of time. And
Mm.
if they will, then I'll try to incorporate it in my space. But if it seems like it's fleeting, like I know people always say this, like rattan and like cane webbing and stuff. They're like, oh, it's going out, it's going out. But I'm like, texture is never going out of style. It's
Never. Right.
texture. And you just have
Right.
to find new ways to incorporate it. Maybe instead of doing cane webbing in its natural form, maybe you're spray painting it now to match whatever you're
Mm.
doing so it's monochrome. There are ways to
Right.
sort of adjust the trends to sort of make them work for your personal style, but also make them last longer than the trend itself.
Right. Yeah, and what came to mind when you said caning is like if you have like a personal connection, because I literally remember being so little and sitting in my grandma's dining room, and she had these caning chairs,
Yeah.
and one had a hole in it, and I would like shove the food I didn't want through the hole. But it's like, so that makes it like personal, and so
Hmm.
like in with caning for the long run. Like
Yeah.
even when it's out of style, it's here, it's for me. But yeah, I love that, like adjusting it over time, or just taking little bits of it so that you don't make like huge investment level
Yeah.
decisions
Or
up front,
owning
but you
it.
still get to try it.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If someone tells
Yeah.
me something I've done in my house is out, I'll say, okay, well, it's my house and I love my house,
Right?
so I don't
Right?
care. And there are
Right? My
plenty of
favorite.
people like that too. That's why I try really hard to like never do
Yes.
hard, fast advice, like very harsh criticisms of people that have a certain design trend in their home, like don't do
Uh-huh.
ship laps out, things like that, because I'm like,
Right.
if you love it, I promise it will work for you,
Right.
because if you're passionate about it and you're willing to decorate your space around it and it means something to you or you like to look
Uh-huh.
at it, I don't really care what the trends are. I always say like happy
Right.
people and happy homes. So like if the trends
Mm-hmm.
aren't following what you love, don't worry about it. Go your own path,
Right.
stick to that course. Um,
Yeah.
because I don't, unless you're planning on like selling your home, yeah, okay, maybe you might
Right.
need to tone down a trend or two here because it could be very buyer specific. But most people,
Right.
at least in this economy, we're kind of in our homes for a hot minute now. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So I think if you really like something, then go for it. And like I said, there's a way to make some of those trends work more, in a modern way, just depending on how you apply them.
Yes. And even if it's like you're worried about resale, like do it on your furniture. Like you did with your coffee
Yeah,
table. Like do it with something
exactly.
that's like yours anyway that you don't
Right.
get to have.
That you can take with
Yeah.
you. That's the other thing
Uh-huh.
too is if you put all the trends into the pieces that you have in your home, those pieces can come with you whether you're in that home or
Right.
not, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's so good. Um, okay, so this is a fun question because I feel like there's so much we could unpack here, but what has opening up your home to people on the internet and sharing your process of DIY and decor illuminated for you?
I'm gonna sip my water on this one.
Right? Give it a little think about
Well,
what we want to say.
I will say I think my career in radio prepared me for the World Wide Web, and what goes on when you post any project. You
Uh-huh.
have to have a thick skin. And then it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that that's the case. I wish more people
Right.
treated people on the internet like they would treat someone to their face, but
Yeah.
it's just not the
Yeah.
reality. And you got to be able to let some of that roll off because at the end of the day, it is your home. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is my job, and I open up my home and I share it and I work with brands, but it's still my house. I have to live here all day. I spend
Yeah.
24/7 here. But
Right.
yeah, the online criticism can be intense because it's not
Mm-hmm.
always constructive. Most of the time, it's
Right.
not. Um, I think you just need to be very grounded in who you are as a person and what your design aesthetic is, and just stick to your
Mm.
guns. And
Right.
when it comes to DIY, there's a reason why it's called do it yourself because we're
Yeah.
not professionals. We
Uh-huh.
do it ourselves. So
Right.
it's
Yes.
when you post a DIY online, there are going to be people that take issue with your process. They're going to say,
Right.
why'd you use IKEA Billy bookshelves to build that instead of building your own shelves? Why did
Right.
you, prime it with this particular primer? I don't like that primer. You just have to know what works for you and go with
Right.
that and then be
Yeah.
willing to stick by it. I don't think you need to be combative with people. I try not to, get stoop to their level, but at the same time,
Right.
I do stand my ground. I say, this is why I made this decision. It works for me, it works for my home, and that's the important
Mm.
thing. And maybe it helps
Yeah.
somebody else, maybe it doesn't, but I'm sharing what I did.
Right.
And that's really all you can do because I don't know any one of us that doesn't have hate comments or
Mm-hmm.
deep
Mm-hmm.
criticisms of our work, especially us in the DIY community. There are a million
Yeah.
people that want to tell you how to do it. And that's
Uh-huh.
fine. Then come on over to my house and do it for me. I would love
I
it.
was gonna say, then you do it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is hard. Come on over.
Right. Right. But yeah, I was literally just talking about this in like one of the last episodes. Like it took me 2 months to make this space. And now you're gonna come in here and in 5 seconds rip the
Tear
whole
it
thing apart.
down.
It's like
Yeah,
that level of effort is not fair. And therefore I'm just not gonna give that much weight to that decision.
right.
Because it's like it took you 5 seconds to say that, you know?
And a lot of
But yeah,
times they don't even watch the whole video. They don't know the full story. Or,
right.
there's simple I've got wood floors in my house and they have to run a certain direction because that's how the floor
Right.
joists are running. And we would have had to add all new underlayment throughout the entire house to be able to run them the correct way,
Oh,
long ways.
right.
But it's
Right.
like I know the explanation behind it, so I will quickly explain it to people, but if they don't accept that as an answer, I'm like, well, you weren't
Sorry.
here when we were making the decision, and like
Right.
I didn't want to pay $3,000 for extra underlayment on my floors and rip up my tile to do that and all
Right.
of it. So
Right.
I think people don't know the full backstory, especially when it comes to DIYs, and me as well. I get a lot of criticisms about even like how I use my saw and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I could go into a long explanation of, oh, well, I sit down when I saw usually because I have a fainting condition, or I could
Right.
just ignore, you know?
Right. Like, sorry, I have to make accommodations so I don't pass out while
Yeah.
sawing this board. Thank you.
I definitely
Yeah,
think that's a video I need to make at some point, like all my
it is.
accommodations, because they're like, people have no idea. Behind the scenes, I'm working magic to try to
Right.
make things
Uh-huh.
come together, and work for
Uh-huh.
me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, at this point, I just take the criticism with a grain of salt. It's very rare that someone gets under my skin. It's usually only when people take personal digs at you, like attacks and stuff. I will
Yes.
just block those people
Yes.
because, you know,
Like, bye.
I am just a body in the shot. Really, the focus should be on
Mm-hmm.
my work. That's
The
that's
work. Yeah.
100% what I want. Do you like the project? If you don't, that's totally fine, but it should be about
Right.
that.
Right. You don't need to come for me. Like,
Yeah.
do you like the paint color or not? Like, let's talk about that. I'm not putting myself out here for personal critique. Like, we
Right.
can talk about my work. I would not be sharing if it was like a personal
And I'm not like
critique.
I'm not saying or doing anything offensive or worthy of personal
Right.
critique. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm literally just
Like, I'm
doing a
just saying this is
DIY.
very cool. Yeah.
It's not that serious.
Right. Like a DIY in my own house that I paid for. And yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. It is funny, the online space. It also is funny to me to watch so many people that are like newer creators come onto the scene.
hmm
And it's like, I don't know, validating in a way to see that like it's not just me. Like it's like the
Yeah.
internet is just a weird and wild place. And you go through the cycles of like not really being confident and putting out things that are kind of like emulating other people's work, and then you kind of grow, and then people rip you down and you take it to heart, and then
Yeah.
eventually you get thick skin. You're like, here's who I am, here's what I'm doing, here's my house, you like it or you don't. And then it's like once you reach that level, you're like so much
And
easier.
I think when you're in your not giving an F era, I think that's really like when your creativity starts to blossom and you just hone in
Yes.
on exactly
Mm,
who you are, what your style is, what you do best. And honestly, I
right.
think it really helps us grow as designers. I don't want to give any trolls
Mm,
credit for tearing us down, but
right.
I will say that, if you've been in this business long enough, it does make you stronger and it makes you more creative and passionate about what you do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because it's like you're forced to be more solid. Like you
Yeah.
weren't taking all those hits. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like you're forced to be more solid and more sure.
Yeah, I'm so resolute in the decisions I'm making now too. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. This is the first time, like just being in this house, it's the first time that
Mm.
designing spaces has come so naturally for me.
Yeah.
Usually
Isn't
I
that
am
funny?
hemming and hawing over every single design decision. And people are asking, oh, how did you get your inspo for this house? Or like, how did you even think to do this? And I'm like, it
Uh-huh.
just happened. Like it just
Happens.
flowed. Um,
Yeah.
I had mood boards for this house before we even moved in. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
I already I saw the house. Looked at the pictures online again after we left and I'm like, I know what I'm doing here. And I think that's
Yeah.
part and parcel due to the fact that I've evolved over the years, developed a personal style, and I've become strong in my design sensibility because I've dealt
Right.
with some criticism here and there on different design elements that I featured before. So
Right. It's
yeah,
like a little version of like a dissertation. Like you have to defend your work like day
yes.
in and day out till you reach the point where you're like, okay, I know this. I'm 100%
Yeah, this house is my thesis.
right. It's my thesis. You're a senior project. So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, well, you share a lot of like the deep stuff
Mhm.
about having a chronic condition. And
Yeah.
I think that is so important for people, number one, who also are in the same boat. But number two, to see that like that level of work and intentionality you put in your house, like you're choosing to do that, like on
Yeah.
your good days, on
Yeah.
the days you have energy and you can get out of bed and you can function, like you're choosing to be in your space. And so that not only says something about like the importance of your house in like supporting you, but also just like the importance of investing in your space so that
Hmm.
you can like be supported by it.
Hmm.
So I guess like what what has that process been like opening up online about that?
That
Has it
I
been
will, if
hard?
I'm totally transparent, I still do struggle with the level of transparency that I have on social
Mm,
media. There are
okay.
times where I don't share what's going on behind the scenes because I'll
Yeah.
get criticism of people saying, "Oh my God, you're always whining, it's depressing." And then
Yeah.
I go through periods of sharing more of what's going on because I get messages of support from people saying, I also have POTS syndrome, or I have a similar chronic condition, or
Yes.
I also struggle with my
Mm,
health. And it's wonderful to see you talking about that at the same time of sharing these beautiful projects. Um,
yeah.
so it's sort of, I'm trying to walk a line at all times because at the end of the day, I always want to be known for my work first. I want people to see
Right.
me, the designer, me, the creator first versus me, the sick person. Because being sick,
Mm,
even though it sort of took over my life and it's the number one, my health has to be my number one priority at all times.
yeah.
Um, I don't want that to be the only thing I'm known for.
Right.
It's just not something I want to always focus on. But there are times where it felt like I was lying to people if I didn't share what was
Mm,
going on. Because, I mean, just this year I was down in bed for an entire month with migraines. And it was like,
wow.
if
Yeah.
I don't chime in and tell people what's happening, they're going to think that I just didn't feel like doing anything or posting
Mm-hmm.
anything. And I am not lazy. And that is like the one thing that I struggle with all the time with accepting that I have to rest. I have to have periods of rest with this
Yeah.
condition because I
Yes.
never want to be seen as someone who's lazy or is like, skipping out on work kind of a thing. Like I came off of disability to prove not only to myself, but to the people around me that like I am not just someone who just wants to kick back and let life pass me by and collect a monthly check. Not to say that there aren't people that
Right.
that need that. You know what I mean? There are people that
Right.
truly are so ill that they for sure need to be in their home and rest every day. But I just had to
Yeah.
do more. I couldn't sit in bed all day. I just couldn't do it. It wasn't good for me either. It's actually good for my
Right.
health to be up and active. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I try to have a healthy balance of here's all the exciting projects I have going on and look at everything I've done. And then the reality of, hey guys, it took me 6 months to complete this living room because I was down for a month and a half of it.
Yeah.
And I hope it helps somebody. If it helps, they
Mm,
always say if it
yeah.
helps one person, it's worth it. I genuinely believe
Yep.
that. Um, but yes, at the same time, I'm still like trying to find the balance of like, do I really tell people the truth? Because I'll be honest, as
Mm,
transparent as I have been on my pages, people don't actually know the full real
the whole
story. It is,
picture. Yeah.
I struggle every single day in the middle of my project, when I'm finishing my project, when I'm photographing my project, when I'm uploading that
Mm,
project and typing out the captions, I struggle every single day. And
yeah.
if I focused on that, I think I would be depressed all
Yeah.
the time. So
Right.
I try to just push it down when I can. And then, I have my bad days where I cry, I get
Sure.
frustrated.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've told my husband, like, why me? Like, if I was just healthy, look at all the DIYs I could do and look at how quickly I could accomplish things. But I let myself have a day and then I get
Yeah.
over that and I wake up the next day like, okay, let's get out of that funk and let's get back to what I'm passionate about. And I'll just do what I can today. If I can't do everything,
Mm,
that's all right.
yeah.
But hopefully, I would like to think that the impression I give to my followers is not all about, oh, woe is me and my life is hard, because my life is also really rewarding. Doing this job, extremely
Yeah.
rewarding. And we're very lucky that we get to have a career where we don't have to show up to a 9 to 5 every day. I can work around my
Yes.
health, and I'm so
Yes.
lucky and grateful for that. So I try to focus on the positive as much as I can.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what's wild though? While you were telling me that, it's so fascinating that your design style like fits your life, like the
Yeah.
contrast. Like you're
Yeah.
holding like beautiful, incredible spaces and like really hard, real moments.
Yeah.
So it's like you and your design style that you finally are like being yourself is like you, like your
Yeah.
story. Like, how cool is
I
that?
think it's, yeah, I'm literally looking at a, an art print that I have in my home of this lady sitting in a gown in a chair.
Uh
And
huh.
that's how I feel sometimes. I feel like
Yeah.
I have dressed up my house so beautifully, but then behind the scenes, I'm exhausted. I'm sitting in a chair.
Yes.
I'm laying down on the couch. I'm like relieved it's done, but like totally, I've totally overexerted myself. So it's just, and I didn't even really
Yeah.
think about that when I picked out that print. But sometimes I feel like our designs sort of echo what's happening in our
Yeah.
lives, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. But no, I feel you also with that boundary of like how much do I share?
Yeah.
Because my struggle has been like mental health over the past year. It's like I moved to New Jersey,
Yeah.
essentially thinking like I'm moving here, I'm gonna get a divorce, like I'm gonna live next to Jesse and have a support system and renovate this house.
Yeah.
And now being in the middle of like, am I staying or am I going? Like
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And honestly, it feels like I've laid on the floor and cried for a year. But like on social, you never would have known that
Yeah.
because there's still a project every once in a while. Definitely not as consistent as it was. It was like every weekend there was
Yeah.
something. But it's like, how much do I share? Because a lot of the process is like when you're in it, sometimes you just need to be in it. Like I'm working through it and
Yeah.
it's for me to be here and no one else gets to look at that. And then sometimes it's like sharing that helps others or it helps you when you get that feedback.
Oh, it's
So,
cathartic for sure to let it
yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times I just want to like get on my Instagram and be like, you guys, I've had the worst health week ever. Like, I feel terrible. I
Yeah.
feel depressed. I feel like I'm never going to be able to do another DIY again. I'm freaking out. Like, I want to
Right.
just, and on occasion, I'll sort of let those things out. And gosh, it is freeing because it just feels like
Mm-hmm.
I'm keeping this big secret from my audience. And
Right.
I do think just
Right.
as much as we have a responsibility to sort of be authentic and be honest with people, especially about like product reviews and things like that, but also
Right.
about who we are as people, so people know who
Yeah.
they are following and supporting. But I
Yes.
also think the onus is on our followers too to understand that we are real people. Like, man,
Mm-hmm.
just like you have problems in your life, we do too, and
Right.
just give people a little more grace, I
Right.
mean, I will say I
Right.
have a super supportive following. It's usually
Yeah.
never any of my followers that's saying anything negative to me. It's
Right.
always some random
Right.
person that comes
Random
across my
person.
page, okay? But
Yes.
I think it's important to see, even though we're online creators and we have this platform and this pedestal that we're put on, some of us
Mm-hmm.
a huge pedestal with millions of followers and things like that. I
Yeah.
think it's important for people to see us as human beings first because we
Right.
are. We're not gonna be perfect all the time. We're not gonna do the perfect thing. We're not gonna say the perfect thing. And we're struggling in our own lives with figuring things out as well, you know?
Right. Right. And that some of that is going to be in real time, like here's the day and here's what's happening. And sometimes it's like there's some things we can only share in retrospect. We have to
Yeah.
go through it
Oh,
first to really tell our
100%.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some of those moments too where I think, okay, I'm ready to tell people why this project took me 6 months,
Yeah.
or, what was going on when I was creating this space,
Right.
I think I just opened up recently to people. I was really having a hard time the first couple of months of living in this house because I had
Yeah.
just left our fully furnished, fully designed,
Yes.
finished
Yes.
house with all my
Mm-hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears and all my hard work into. And then I'm living in this space that felt like I was staying at an Airbnb, like somebody else's
Yes.
house, you know?
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until I started finishing some of the projects in our living room space, I was able to see um, more of like what's home for me now and
Right.
feel like it was
Right.
home.
No, but that's so funny because literally my next question that I had written down was like, I feel like I know what it's like to leave like a house you've worked on for so
Yeah.
long and feel like it's almost done and then like start over. And I know for me, the second guessing I did where I was like, what have I done? Like, was this
Yeah.
actually the right call? Like, I have so much work to get it like just moved in, much less to be able to do like
And the problem
projects.
is I did it to myself. My husband and I are such
Yeah,
impulsive people, and that
same.
can be problematic.
Right.
Especially like my buddy Drew from Lone Fox Home, he bought a new house,
Uh-huh.
and I've been watching all his projects
Okay.
and weighing in on things he should do and things that he got for this
Uh-huh.
house.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, Drew, should I, on a Friday, I was like, should I just like get a new house? And he's like, yeah, we should both be renovating at the same time. Of course, he's a bad influence,
Oh my
but
God.
literally, I think
Right,
on that
right.
Tuesday, we contacted our realtor friend. I told my husband, I was like, let's get a new house. And he's like, okay. So that's how
Oh
impulsive
my
we
God.
are. And then I think 2 months later, we found a house. So, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
that level of being impulsive can, when you get to that actual moving day and the
Yeah.
period of 2 months of living in a new house before anything is your
Uh-huh.
style or renovated, it's a little
Right.
disconcerting to say the least. Also, our last
Right.
house, we got an all cash offer on it and they turned it into an Airbnb. And we knew that going into it.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That would have triggered me. I'd be like, no.
yeah, so I'm reading all the reviews online of like the Airbnb and like what's,
Yeah.
oh my God, I didn't know he was gonna mow the lawn right this second. Can you hear it?
I can't
Okay,
hear
great.
it.
I'll just keep talking then.
No, I can't hear it.
Um, but yeah, so when we finally got in here and it just didn't feel like my house. And you know what the other thing too is? I'm so weird about this. I'm like a weirdo, but smells. When it doesn't smell like your
Me too.
house, that
Yeah,
weirds
mine
me
still
out.
doesn't smell like my house. And I'm like, because, okay, so before this, I'd only ever bought new builds. Like our first ever
Yeah,
house was
so
a
that
new
has
build.
no smell,
And
so
then we
that's
moved in,
nice?
no smell,
Yeah,
like fresh paint. And then I moved here and it's like still, it's a year later and it doesn't smell like me.
yeah,
Because I literally in January, we were like, oh, we should move to New Jersey. By April, we had traded in like our big house and bought two dumpster fire
yeah.
houses. Like,
You are
what
brave.
what that one cost? Dumpster fire, like so bad. And they're both old. They're like 1840,
Yeah.
1880, and I had never owned anything older than a brand new house. It's like, how do you think this is going to end? Like you're going to need an adjustment
Yeah.
period at the very
I will
least.
tell
And
you,
it took a year.
we almost purchased a 1920s Tudor home. We were like, the day
Uh-huh.
we decided not to buy that home is the day we found this home. I have no regrets on
Yeah.
passing on that home, and I'll tell you why.
That's good. That's good.
I didn't want to have to worry about fixing things like boilers and siding and
Yep.
roofs. I wanted
Yep.
to just start doing the pretty stuff like replacing floors and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
remodeling a fireplace and like adding ceiling medallions. Like I just could not
Uh-huh.
imagine. Now that I see some of these spaces finished, I think the depression I would have been in if I had been in that 1920s Tudor home, which by the way, it did not have
Yeah.
all the remaining characters. So it was not like
Right. Like not even
not
like
even
livable
charming.
almost.
Okay, yeah. There
Yeah.
was no
Right. Just
charm.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like uh, we made the right decision on the right house. And I knew it was the right decision even when I was like questioning, oh my gosh, we just left our whole house for this renovation
Yeah.
project. But I think ultimately it ended up being the right call. And now that I'm seeing the spaces come
Yes.
together, it just like every day I walk around, I tell my husband, I'm like, the living room's done. I'm like, and I love it so much. It's like
Oh.
everything I
Yeah.
ever wanted. It
Oh.
just works for us so well.
Yeah.
We're about to
Yeah.
start our kitchen renovation, and even though that's going to be like a nightmare, probably, I'm still also very excited because I
Right.
see the vision so clearly in this house, and I've never had that before. So I think once I got
Yeah.
over the initial shock of just moving, I'm now realizing how well this house works for us, and which, by the way, it is way bigger than the two of us need. I think it's like something ridiculous, like 3,100 square feet. But it was like
Uh-huh.
a crazy opportunity we couldn't pass up. We were looking for like,
Yeah.
we went from a 1,500 square feet to this, and we were only looking for like
Right.
2,000 to 2,500 max. So the
Uh-huh.
possibilities here are just endless. There's just so many more rooms to do and so many more ideas I
Yeah.
have. Um,
And you don't outgrow it so
yeah, and I
soon.
think
You get to
honestly,
be there for a
I
while.
really want this to be like our forever house. The only way you can convince me to move from here would be if we got a house on the lake in Cleveland, which is like millions of dollars. So
Yeah.
unlikely that that's going to happen.
but still
But
possible with
you
time.
never
Yeah.
know. Maybe
Yeah.
the peony and honey product line is coming out there and it's going to sell
Right.
like hotcakes. Who knows?
Right.
But I
Right.
think it's our foreseeable future house. And I think
Mm,
that's a really comforting feeling because our last house always felt like a transitional home. It never felt like we're staying
right.
here forever, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I'm settling into that now, that feeling. We also have great neighbors
Mm,
too, which let me tell you, money
that's so
cannot buy
special.
that, you know?
Yeah. I have really entertaining neighbors. They're great in the way that they're
Good people
like
watching.
my one neighbor brought me like good people watching, and they're so I confuse them so much.
Yeah,
They're like, what, this girl's so
yeah.
weird and so crazy. But yeah, because I definitely bought the house that like needs a whole new roof and
And
needs a
you're
pool,
out there
and I'm
doing
like, okay,
everything,
great,
aren't you?
right, with my power
Yeah.
tools, and they're like, and it's like everyone's older here, like, and many people are like, I was born in the house I live in,
Yeah.
and I've been here for 70 years, and I'm like,
That's
fascinating.
sort of the
Like nothing
neighborhood
has been
we're
houses
in.
in the last 5
I
years.
mean, it's not 70
Yeah,
years, but they've been here for 30. The development's like 30 years old. So,
yeah, yeah,
all the people are usually the original owners. So we're like the youngest people in the neighborhood, and they're looking at me sawing on my
right,
front porch like I'm insane because I'm out
yes,
there every day doing something.
right,
In fact, my neighbor like texted me and was like, "Are you okay? I haven't seen you outside sawing." I'm like, "I'm stuck in bed with a migraine." Like she knew that something was wrong
yeah,
because I
right.
wasn't
She's
out
like,
there.
you're not outside with a saw. Yeah,
So and there was like, "What are you working
that's
on
so
today?" I'm like,
funny.
"You don't even want to know. You don't even want to know." But
Right,
I'm like, "I'll show you guys when
right,
it's all done. We'll have you guys over." But I'm like, right now, I'm like just
yeah,
constantly covered in dust and like this look here is a very rare occasion. Like at
right.
this point,
So fresh, so clean.
yeah, I'm just covered in construction dust every day, and I just love
I
to.
feel you.
I
Yeah.
just got our floors all clean in here, our wood floors from all the dust that we had from the construction we've been doing. And then the kitchen's about to get done. It's all going to be covered
Right?
again.
Rip it all up all
I
over
don't know
again.
why I think that I'm just going to
Yeah.
be dust free at some point this year. It's not going to happen.
It's not
No.
here, right? Not this year. No. But I do love that you got like momentum before your kitchen renovation, that you like
Yes.
have some spaces that are done, because that's a really intense project to go into with
Yeah, I think I
like
needed like
around you that's like,
how like I guess for me, I just have to always reprove to myself that I'm like capable of doing this, you know?
yep. Every single project is like, do we know what we're doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just like brands will ask you for proof of concept. I'm like proof of
Yeah.
concepting myself. I'm like, can you do this? Like, will this
Right.
be cute?
Right. Right.
And then also
Right.
too, like I now see like the vibe. I've made some changes to the original kitchen design just based off of some of the choices that I've made so far in the home. And I think that's really nice too to sort of have a leading off point because the way our house works, it's like one big you I guess square. It's a square. But it's all the
Yeah.
rooms sort of bleed into each other on the main level. So if I'm making
Okay.
some wackadoodle design choice in the kitchen, uh it's gonna show
You
in the
can see
living
it in
room.
the next
Yeah,
room.
so
Yeah.
like I have to sort of stay in the realm of what I've been doing so far, which actually I think will ultimately turn into a
Right.
really cohesive home, which I think is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you sort of
Yeah.
prove your concept to yourself for the first couple of spaces, start with the smaller projects. I started in the foyer because I knew that would be
Right.
somewhat easier to do. Then I sort of evolved to
Yeah.
the living room. Now going into the kitchen, I feel like I'm equipped to not only do the renovation, but also I know what style I need to do. I know what design choices I need to make because I've sort of already got a thing going, you know?
Right. Yeah, and everything builds on each other,
Yes.
and it's like you eliminate most of the choices when you make one choice for the next space. It's like, well, we did black and white in here, so we're not going to do this in here. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it makes logical sense, like the next space, what it should
Yeah,
be.
totally.
So
I
yeah,
think it
makes
it
it
just
easier.
helps that's the thing too. Then you're not starting out from scratch. Like, what am I going to do in a kitchen, you
Right.
know? But
Right.
yeah, we'll see how it turns out, but I think it's going to be really good and I'm really trying to go for something very classic in the kitchen that stands the test of time. I think
Yeah.
maybe it's because I'm getting older and I'm trying to be more financially savvy, but like I'm also trying to show people like
Mm.
don't renovate the same room 8,000 times like I did in my last house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try to make
Right.
design decisions that will stand the test of time, that you won't get sick of. Because
I
I
feel you.
re-renovated almost every single room in our last house multiple times, and I don't think that was sending that
Uh-huh.
good of a message to people, uh,
Right.
because it was kind of a waste at times.
I feel you though. It's like I did it for the creativity of
Yeah,
it and because I genuinely love the
yeah,
process and ran out of rooms, but it's like that's not
yeah.
sustainable. So it's like how can you do projects that are like you can keep doing projects, but it doesn't have to be like redoing
Yeah, and a
things.
house like this, you're really never going to be done. Like, they're just
Right.
not only, say I get all the spaces done in the house, you know how it is. There's always like a new coffee table you want
Yeah.
to build, or there's always,
Right.
a new wall that you want to trim out or something like that. I think our last house, I
Right.
really did everything I could possibly do in that
Possibly do.
home. So
Yeah.
then I was just
Yeah.
going to redoing the same rooms over and over again. And I regret it. I mean,
Right.
I like some of the designs I ended up with in the end. I regret sort of wasting money and product and time
Yeah.
just sort of redoing all those spaces. And the reason is because I was sort of doing like the fast fashion of decorating,
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
was just going, just feeling like I wanted to be trendy all the time, and I wasn't using things that
Mhm.
wouldn't get sick of. It was things I was quickly
Right.
sick of. So I'm hoping I'm making
Yes.
the right decisions in this house that I know I'm gonna like for years to come. So that way I won't have to make any
Yeah.
big changes. Especially the kitchen
Right.
renovation. Like, I don't want to do that more than once.
Right, like that's when you don't want to redo it,
No.
right? Like the paint, yes, I'll repaint a room 100
Yeah.
times, but I will not redo a kitchen. Like,
No. Heck no. Not at
yeah.
all.
But it's like you got to learn that the hard way sometimes, but now like that's such a strong experience to draw off
Yeah.
of. So it's like even more so you're going to make the right
Yeah.
decision because you know what's like the weight of it.
And I want to set a good example for people too. Like, I don't want everyone to think that they
Yeah.
need to redo all their homes multiple times or each room multiple
Right.
times.
Right.
If you are renovating a room, I want to show you how you can incorporate design trends that will stand the test of time so that you don't have to redo that room multiple times over, that you can love
Right.
it for a long time. So I'm trying to be better,
Right.
trying to think more sustainably than I was in the past.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm there too with you.
Yeah.
I feel that feeling.
I wonder too. I know I'm not supposed. It's your podcast, but I do have to ask you this question. Like, I always see you as someone who really empowers women, in our community, and I wonder how you deal with all the comments from the male demographic, because
Yeah.
I recently had a YouTube video go viral. This built-in video go viral and
Uh-huh.
medium viral, and I had just a lot of very not so nice comments from men, and I'm
Intense.
sure you
Yeah.
get it a lot because you always focus on female empowerment. How do you deal with that?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good topic. All the time. And I think it's so funny because so Jessie is very much like you, where it's like she can take anything a woman will throw at her, but if a man makes a comment, like it's just like, oh, like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
disorienting. I'm the opposite. I actually struggle way more with criticism from
women.
women
Mm,
than
that's
men,
interesting.
which it's got to be like a mommy issue
Yeah.
or something we should unpack like at some point. But literally, it's like so much of it, it's like I can see straight through it,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm like making you feel weak.
yeah.
And so you're like putting on this big peacocky show of like trying to rip me down.
Hmm.
But the only grounds you have is that I'm a woman.
Yeah,
That's it. Like that's what you
yeah,
got. So it's almost like comical to me because it's like you're just being loud and you're being intense or aggressive
yeah,
because you're so either like starved for attention or feeling so like weak because I'm doing something that has been like men's work
yeah.
and something that like you thought was yours and you
Totally.
thought
That
was
you
just
owned
free. And
completely.
so,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's like it is intense and like the comments are so intense and aggressive, especially on
yeah.
YouTube. Like comments from men on YouTube over any other
Telling
platform are
you.
like a specific kind of
I was
aggressive. And
showing
I
my
don't even
dad
know
some of
if
them, and he's like, "Do I need to like find these people?" And I was like, "I don't think so.
yeah,
I think these are just,
right.
I don't think they're deep-seated hatred for me in particular. I just think it
Yeah.
is directed towards women who do this career." as a general rule. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the one thing that just gets me is I'm still fighting for the culture, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's not that I can't handle the comments from men, it's that I still want to see us represented more in tool ads and in,
Yeah.
I was at Home Depot the other day and they had a commercial going for Mother's Day and it was talking about tools for Mother's Day. And I
Uh-huh.
almost could have cried in the dang store
Yeah.
because
Right.
I'm just like, I feel seen right now. And I wish every brand would that's in the DIY home renovation industry would take notice. We
Mm-hmm.
are a huge market for them right now. Like,
Right.
why
Yeah.
aren't there more companies catering to us? We spend so much money on tools and
Right.
home
Right.
project or like home products and things like
Yeah,
that.
with like the power tool stuff, it is so it's wild. And then it's like I want them to also really do it, like not just like we've made a pink tool.
Yes.
It's like,
Why
no.
aren't they more
Yeah.
ergonomic for female smaller hands? I
Yeah.
use a lot of
Right.
the small DeWalt drills and stuff too because they've made the really compact
Uh-huh.
ones, but
Yeah.
still the grip size is always very large. Some
Yeah.
tools are unnecessarily heavy. Like I feel like
Yeah.
there's probably the technology to build a lighter battery
To
for
make them a
this.
little lightweight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like what a cash cow it would be. If I had the money, if I had investors, I would do it myself and I would go out there and I
Same.
would make power tools for women, not pink power tools, although maybe it's an option if
Right.
someone wants it, okay?
Right. If you want a different
But
color,
it's
yeah.
just about the functionality of it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like what?
But it is so interesting with women's workwear. So I recently
Yeah.
learned that like most women's workwear patterns are men's designs and they just shrink them.
Yes.
They don't actually
They don't shape them
redesign
for the
anything
female
to make it
body.
fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Like women's clothing is like a way bigger market.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like it has to reach critical mass and it has to
Yeah.
become more popular. So that's where I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. Like I and all of the other amazing female creators, it's like we're on the front edge of like pushing the
Yeah. And I'm
change.
seeing it,
And it's
the Home
wild.
Depot commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Uh-huh.
evidence to me that it's happening. I just
Yeah.
wish it was happening faster because this is when I'm
Yeah.
in my prime DIY era.
Prime.
So,
Isn't it weird
yeah,
though that it's how fast it isn't?
I
Like
know.
I literally remember at the Haven conference like 4 years ago, I was like pitching Home Depot to work with
Yeah.
them and my pitch literally was like look at all these DMs I get from women who are terrified to go into your store. Like legitimately like I
Yeah.
don't want to go into Home Depot because of the way I'm
Yeah.
treated. And I'm like, you need to change this and I can help you. And they were like, "Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you one thing.
Why are you so
And,
crazy?"
and I mean, I love Home Depot. It's, where I go, but
Yes. My
there's
go-to.
still a
Yeah.
ways to go when it comes to even just shoppability in the store. I mean,
Yeah.
how intimidating is it? And trust me, I mean, at this point, I'm less intimidated, but it's still there. It's not
Yeah.
just me as a woman, but me as a disabled creator or a differently abled
Yeah.
creator. When I go in there and I need a 16-foot board or something, and I gotta pull it out of this giant rack. I am 5'3", 5'4" on a good day, okay?
Right.
And there are just people staring at me like I'm crazy pants, and I'm like,
Like, what is she
what's
doing? It's
what's
like,
the
do you need to lift
alternative?
this
Yeah,
board?
like I don't have
Yeah.
anyone to come pull these boards for me, and I don't want to need someone to pull these boards for me either.
Right.
So why isn't there a way that we could have an aisle where they're stacked horizontally somehow, especially
Mm-hmm.
for common things like baseboards,
Yeah.
crown molding, picture molding, things like that.
Right.
Why aren't there like more fancy displays showing different picture molding projects? And I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
the shoppability isn't quite there yet. But I
Right.
think there's
Right.
a change coming. I think Home Depot's leading that charge, and I love to see it.
Yes.
I hope that it
They're at least
continues.
listening, and even the
Yes.
parts that they haven't quite got, they're at least like watching and
Yeah.
listening, which is
And there's
encouraging.
quite, I mean, we're
Yeah.
not asking for the moon and the stars. I'm not asking for Home Depot to rebrand, neon pink and,
Right.
do everything for just women. What I'm asking for is additional representation in the way we shop, how we shop there,
Right.
how we're viewed as
Right.
creators. I just think the culture is leading, we are leading the charge, us DIY girls in this community. And I hope that
Hmm.
more people than just Home Depot are starting to listen and realize like
Right.
there's, it's not even just about like representing people. They're gonna make money when they switch
Right.
things
It's
around.
like a it's like an economically sound choice alongside
Literally,
like the
if a tool company today came out with a line of like female friendly tools that were easier to handle with our somewhat smaller hands, that were easier to lift, that were maybe like a nude color or black or white,
right,
like
like
a
a
little
neutral. Can we get a
chicer.
neutral? Okay, instead of
Yeah.
red and green, like give me a neutral.
Do they know that they would sell it out in 2 seconds? There would constantly be a demand for it. I'm
Right.
just like, free ideas,
Right.
free.
All we're saying is you need to hurry up, or we're going to be opening a hardware store called Peony and Brunch, and we're going to beat you to it. So take that.
Literally, I know. I wish I had like generational wealth or something and I could just
I know,
start my
right?
own line. But I know starting a tool company
Sounds
seems
exhausting.
expensive and
Right, and
exhausting. Yeah.
expensive. Yeah.
Seems like I
Right.
might need
There's
like
so
a
many
billion
phases.
dollars or a few,
Right.
you know.
Right. Oh
But
my
I
gosh,
hope it
so funny.
happens.
But it
I
would.
hope to see it, you know?
Right. It's gotta, yeah, gotta happen. Somebody's
Yeah.
gotta think of it,
I
is what it
know.
says.
I know. We need like a conference. So we need to just like talk to all the top home brands and be like, "Yo,
Right.
look at all we're
Here's
doing."
what's up.
Yeah.
Right. Like, can
At
you
the
make it
very
better?
minimum, it would be nice if I had a contractor come inside my house that looks at me and not my husband the whole time.
Oh my God, right? My favorite is like I had at our old house, like my girl garage, which was like pink and yellow and like very vibrantly
Yeah.
colorful
I
with
remember
all the clothes on the
your
wall.
seat, your hot pink tool seat. I love that.
Right. So pink. And then people would come over to like fix the washer and like look out and be like, "Oh, your husband's tools?" And it's like, "What? Why do you see that?" And your
Yeah.
first thought, it's like it just must be so ingrained that
Yeah,
I
and
would
it
just
is,
stand
you
there and like
know?
look at them and like
Yeah.
see like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah." And it's like
I mean,
I'll just leave you a moment to kind of, circle through
let it
what
sink
you're
in.
saying.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, and
right,
I'll tell you
right.
too, it really is ingrained because I mean, I never picked up a power tool before 2020.
Yeah.
And my dad and my grandfather are carpenters. Like,
Mhm.
I could have
Mine
been
too. That's so
learning,
funny. Yeah.
I could have
Uh-huh.
been figuring this out and probably developed a lot more skills than I have now
Right.
had I thought to even, it never even occurred to me. And it didn't occur to me to pick up a power tool because it
Right.
was never encouraged. It was never
Yeah.
represented.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing, you know?
Right.
Um,
Same. Like my dad taught me to use a drill because he was like an electrical contractor, home
yeah.
builder. So I learned that. But like my brother had a whole construction birthday where he like took the blades out of the saws and let them like
Yeah.
play with all the power tools. And it just like
Yeah.
it never occurred to him that like
Maybe
that's
you'd be
his
interested in
medium.
it. Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just
And
like you
you know,
teach
my
the kids
dad,
the tools. Like, okay.
exactly. And when my dad came out to like help with, I did get a lot of comments. Oh, your daddy built it for you. I'm like, you don't understand. My dad sat on the couch for much of the project and directed
Right?
us, okay?
Right?
But he was even shocked because this was the first project he's worked on with me in person since 2020. And in 2020, I never used a brad nailer. I never used a miter
Yeah.
saw. I was literally
Yeah.
just handing him tools in 2020
Mhm.
and maybe
Mhm.
like using sanding blocks and drills, things like that, helping him with the
Right.
last project we did together. But so he was just looking at me in awe. I think I figured out when we were mitering the edges of the crown molding that we put up
Yeah.
here. And I figured out the angles like before my dad could figure it out. He was
Yep.
just looking
Yep.
at me in disbelief, like, I have
Uh-huh.
taught you well, like how, I
Yeah.
can't believe that she surpassed me in this one element of building,
Right. Yeah.
But it's empowering. And I always
Yeah.
see, I had to mention that because I always see you as someone in this community that really backs women and empowers us to sort of pick up any power tool and just
Yeah.
or try any project we never tried before and just see if we can make it happen. And that's
Mhm.
the advice
Mhm.
we always give to our followers, isn't it? That just
Yes.
try.
Yeah.
The worst
Yeah.
thing that could happen is you ruin something.
Right. Right.
which everything can be fixed, you know?
Right. Everything can be fixed or repainted or redone or yeah.
Redone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really appreciate that you're one of those strong female voices in our community. Like
Oh,
that's
thanks
what
for
I
saying
take away
that.
from you, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh. I think that's the beauty of our community too, right? Is like there's such a perfect space for everyone and like your
Totally.
unique story and your unique style like is
Yes.
serving such a purposeful specific part of the community and we need all of us. Like we need all different angles
Totally.
to really be able to like fully push a movement like this forward of like
Yeah.
women picking up tools, women taking charge of their spaces, women fighting, chronic illness to
Yep.
still show up and be intentional. It's like and I think that's like really why I started the podcast is like I want to talk to everybody and like see their own little spot
Yeah.
because it's just so cool. Like it gives me chills every time. And I'm
And
like,
we
this
are
is
all so
amazing.
different. We all are coming from
Yeah.
different backgrounds. We all have different
Yeah.
reasons for why we do what we do.
Exactly.
It was nice even I just had Crystal from Perkins on Parkway out here helping me with the
She's so
bookshelves.
cool. Yeah.
She's the best. She's a former Mormon, so she's got this whole
Yeah.
backstory of
Right.
of growing up in the church and how that has impacted her abilities
Yeah.
to DIY and things like that. She's
Mm.
just fascinating. It's just fascinating to hear different people's backgrounds and how they use their different upbringing to design, to DIY, and how they
Yes.
interact with their communities. I just think it's really cool. I think
It's so
um,
cool.
that's the best part about our job is just getting to not only inspire other people, but be inspired by the other girls
Yeah.
that are doing this, and the guys too.
Exactly.
Okay. I do like some of
Yeah, they
my
can come
my
too.
home creator guys as well.
Right. And it's like a smaller space, but it's also so important because like representation needs to exist anywhere. And like as a woman trying to be like, we deserve to be in this space too, we're not saying like, it's ours now, get out. Like, we're just saying
Right.
like, make room for everyone. And so it's so important that people like all the male creators have their platforms or
Yeah.
non-binary or whoever it is that like
Yeah.
everyone is represented and that you can see not only like a million different home design styles but a
Hmm.
million different stories, a million different like approaches to the process so you
Yeah.
can find someone or pieces of each story and be like that's me and I could do that. It's like
Hmm.
yeah, you need it all, you
It's
really do.
amazing to see yourself in other creators and what they're
Mm,
doing. Like I really enjoy that
yes.
aspect of it. Like I
Yeah.
don't always have I some most of the people I'm friends with, it's so funny. The people I'm closest to on the platform, we all have vastly different styles. Like we
Same,
could not be
same.
more different. I think of someone like
Yeah.
Rebecca DIY and her whole house
Uh-huh.
is like bubblegum pink.
Rainbow
And yet
pink.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love everything
Yeah.
she does. I think she's so creative and I'm always inspired by her, but it's like you would never
Yep.
know that when you see all the black and gray and dark blue in my house. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like you
Right.
just would be like, "What?" But
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah.
just I have a respect for people who just own their style and do it so well, you know?
Right.
I
Right.
just
And
think
it's
that's
like I
really
don't want
cool.
your pink in my house, but I look at you embodying your style in your house in such a strong way and be like, "Yes, like I love
Yeah.
that.
I
I
always
love
say
that for
like in
you."
another life I'd be Rebecca, like
Yeah.
I would and I had a moment in the 2020 era we were all depressed with COVID where I like
I did
put
too. I
color
was like,
everywhere in
"Yeah.
my house,
Yeah.
pink and bright blues and turquoise. And then I was like, this is not me. This was my depression speaking.
Right.
This
Right.
was
Like
me
trying to
being like,
overcompensate for like
yes.
the moodiness going on inside.
We're
Yeah.
not going outside to places? Okay, well, everything
Right.
needs to be in color.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm like, but Rebecca lives that life all the time. And I'm like, you must be like the most chipper, positive person. And she is. She really
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
So it's just like
I know it's
she
not
is
easy
her
on the phone to
style.
her too. She's just like so. I always leave feeling like, oh, like I'm so.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's a breath
like
of fresh
yeah,
air as a
yeah.
person. Yeah, she's
Mhm.
great. But
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
love that. Like, there are just so many different um, design styles that I so respect and love, even though they don't end up in my house.
Exactly.
I borrow the smallest things from people,
Yeah.
and it maybe shows up in a different way in my house, but the
Mhm.
respect is always there for their art.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what real art is. Like being able
Yeah.
to look at something and see the art in it without needing to be like, I need it for me. Like,
Right, exactly.
yeah,
Totally.
I love that. No, so good. Well, this episode is going to be incredible. I feel like there's so many takeaways, even if it's just that people like get to find you and connect with you and follow you. Like,
Yeah, I really
homes
appreciate
will be
it.
changed. So, yeah, thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
your
having
time.
me.
Thanks for listening. And if you've got more episodes to catch up on, binge on. Don't let me stop you. But if you've got a second, you should come say hi on Insta at MakeSpacePod. And if you're an overachiever, you can also leave a review and I'll love you forever. If you're new here, hit that follow button to officially become a DIY queen and join all the amazing humans tuning in every week.